Last fire will rise.
Hello, YouTubers. I want to play a game. Okay, so it's that time of year again. It's October, and as my viewers will know by now, I am a huge Halloween fan. And by that I mean the holiday, but I'm also a fan of the movie series, as you saw last year. So, being as it's now October, I have to start bringing you my Halloween specials. So today, what I wanted to talk about was the Saw franchise. Now, this all started with the very first movie, Saw. The movie basically, two guys wake up in this dark, dank, like dirty, basically basically what looks like an abandoned bathroom, kind of. Neither of them know how the heck they got there. They're chained basically to the wall, to these large pipes. They have no idea how they got there. They're both kind of in the same predicament. They can't remember what kind of happened to them before. So the whole movie, for the most part, is in that bathroom. They do have a few flashbacks here and there of as they start to fill in the pieces in their own mind. They start to flash to what happened to them and stuff like that. So basically, they're sitting there together trying to figure out why are they there. Who brought them there? What's going on? They find a tape player and corresponding tapes, and an ominous voice explains to them why they're there and kind of gives them clues as to what they need to do and where they need to find it. It was the very first movie. They also, of course, show some of the other jigsaw traps as he cuts a jigsaw piece out of his victims, so he becomes known as the Jigsaw Killer. They show some of his other traps and stuff like that. There's, of course, the lady with the bear trap, reverse bear trap kind of thing, and she actually gets out of her trap. So it goes to show you it was a huge hit. Personally, I think it was an awesome movie, and it kind of goes to show you because again, with the exception of scenes here and there, most of the movie was just in a bathroom, in this dingy, dirty bathroom, and yet it was absolutely captivating. I know this movie is very old, so at this point, if you haven't seen it, what the heck are you waiting for? But nonetheless, just in case you haven't seen it, the ending was so awesome that I won't spoil it for you. It was just definitely a great movie, definitely one, if you have not checked it out, I don't know what you've been waiting for. I highly recommend it. So for a while there, the Saw movies actually became like the horror franchise. They became like the big Halloween season movie. There was one every year. So the very next one was Saw 2. And let me just, I'm not going to go through absolutely every single, all the details about every single movie, because there wound up being 7 of them. But I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of which ones that I thought were good, and stuff like that. So the second one, it was a little bit different. It was on a bigger scale. There's a whole bunch of people in basically an abandoned house or warehouse, or looked like a house, together, and they had to go through various traps together as a team, and there was basically there was like a gas being released, and there were a certain number of antidotes that they could find, but they had to, of course, go through jigsaw traps in order to find them. One of the participants in this game happened to be Amanda, who was the lady in the first movie who escaped the reverse bear trap thingy. And of course, there's also the backstory of there's a particular cop who's trying to find Jigsaw, and his son happens to be one of the people in that game. So Saw 2 was also where they started to kind of tie everything together for the sequels as like one big story. Now, of course, each of the sequels is its own separate story, it's its own standalone movie, but they also all tied together. Obviously, with the first Saw movie, they didn't know the massive success it was going to become. So of course they hadn't necessarily planned for that, but number 2 is where it really starts to become one big story, and they all kind of tie together. So the third Saw movie, I don't want to spoil too much, so that's where we start to get into, again, even more so, everything is all, one giant story. So, Saw 3, it involves a nurse, and there's a guy that's kind of looking for his daughter. I don't want to get into, again, too much detail. And again, if you haven't seen these movies, I don't know what you've been waiting for, but this is where everything starts more tied together. Saw 4 is actually where one of the cops who had been, part of the whole investigation since the first movie, it actually becomes kind of his test, and they kind of play it off like Jigsaw's trying to recruit him. So Saw 3. Saw 3 was actually, decent. I like it. Maybe not one of the best of the group, but it's one that I like. Saw 4, again, the cop is, they play it off like Jigsaw is trying to recruit him, basically. And I won't spoil whether or not that's what happens. Saw 4, again, it's another one that I would say, wasn't necessarily one of the best in my personal view, but still good. Like I said, personally, almost every single one, and I'll go more into that later, I thought was really good. I know a lot of people aren't that enamored of some of the later ones, and I can understand why, but me personally, I still thought they were really good. So, in Saw 5, several people wake up together in, I guess it sort of kind of looks like a factory, abandoned warehouse type of thing. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but their game kind of involves that they're all somehow connected, and they have to figure out why. So this one, I actually have to say, Saw 5 to me was one of my personal favorites of the ones. I think the absolute best was the original Saw. But just making sure my camera's been turning itself off. The absolute best was the original Saw, but I think Saw 5 was one of the better, definitely in my personal view, of the ones that came after the original. Then there is, of course, Saw 6. Now, in that one, it actually involves a boss, an entire company, in fact. But the main participant in that game is the boss of an insurance company, health insurance. And his various employees are in the game with him, but it's his test. Now, I gotta say, Saw 6 was actually my personal favorite of the ones that came after the original. Like, Saw, the original, was definitely the best, but Saw 6 was my personal favorite, I think, of the ones that came after. Then, of course, you've got Saw, the Final Chapter, also known as Saw 3D, as it came out in 3D originally. And I gotta say, this one, unfortunately, it was kind of a bit of a letdown. It was the only one of the group that I personally don't think was that good. All the same, I still, every year, at least one time a year during Halloween, I watch all the movies. I'm sorry, not during Halloween, but during the Halloween season, I watch all the movies, and that is still one. I will still watch it. I still enjoy it, but it just definitely wasn't as good as, in my view, as the others. It's almost weird. It almost felt kind of like Saw Gone Hollywood. Like, from the very first trap, it kind of defeats sort of the purpose of Jigsaw in the first place. It was right out in the open. Usually the games, are hidden. And it was too flashy and in your face. It didn't have the proper feel, if you ask me. And this movie also brought us something that fans had kind of been clamoring to see since the very beginning, the very first movie, since it first started becoming, this franchise. And it kind of just, it's hard to even explain without spoiling anything, but it was kind of just a little meh once it finally happened, the way it happened. And it was cool and all that they finally did it, but just the way it was executed just was kind of lame. So, again, it was not the best of the group, and you can kind of expect that. It was the 7th movie, but it was a little bit of a letdown. But overall, I think the whole franchise is awesome, and it's definitely one. If you have not checked out the movies, I don't know what you've been waiting for. I'd highly recommend you do. Okay, thank you, YouTubers. Have a nice day, and happy Halloween.